Without Clank, Ratchet was alone in the universe. Alone. Alone. Alone.
Welcome to MojoPlays, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 20 PlayStation 3 games of all time. For this list, we're listing off the best games that launched on the PlayStation 3. Do note that we're prioritizing exclusives. Which of these games is your all-time favorite? Share with us in the comments below. Before we begin, we publish new content all week long, so be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. Starhawk.
Days are over.
Of the first-party PS3 exclusives, Starhawk was kind of the red-headed stepchild of the family. It was barely marketed by Sony, which is a real shame considering how much fun the game actually was. A spiritual successor to the Warhawk franchise, it featured the same explosive action as its predecessors, but with a few more bells and whistles. Players could build bases and bunkers in the midst of combat, and you could pilot colossal mechs. The single-player campaign may not have been anything too spectacular, but there was still a lot to love here. Yakuza IV. Though it is available on more platforms today, Yakuza IV was originally a PS3 exclusive, so it qualifies for the list. Despite not being the most critically acclaimed in the franchise, nor the best-selling, Yakuza IV was the entry where folks started paying more attention to the IP. Multiple playable characters, a modest-sized world to explore, and diverse movesets were some of the game's strongest points. The story might be hit or miss for the hardcore fans of the series, but Yakuza 4 is still worthy of being called one of the best PS3 games. Tokyo Jungle. To stand out from the crowd, you sometimes have to do some pretty ridiculous things. Sometimes it's best to throw all logic out the window and have some pure, unadulterated fun. That was the approach of Tokyo Jungle, a survival game that is arguably one of the strangest and most entertaining of its genre. Humans have now become extinct, leading to a crisis in the animal kingdom. Taking control of dogs, cats, crocodiles, pandas, and more, you'll have to traverse and fight your way through this humanless world. Even with an idea absurd as this, Tokyo Jungle is a surprisingly intriguing title, balancing its serious yet goofy tones rather well. If only it had migrated to modern platforms. PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale.
Bring it on, Space Thing.
Look, we give PlayStation All-Stars a lot of crap. We've put it on several lists of disappointing crossovers and failed Smash Bros. Clones. But credit where credit is due. It's honestly a fun game to play. Every character feels as though they were ripped directly out of their games, both visually and mechanically. Stages featured bizarre mashups of different PlayStation IPs that added new environmental hazards to the fight, like raining golf balls in Sandover Village and trivia questions in Little Big Planet. There was a wild and chaotic charm here that made PlayStation All-Stars stand out a bit, even if Kratos was broken as hell. Sly Cooper, Thieves in Time. Thieves in Time was still an excellent title in the Sly Cooper franchise. Whereas Sly 3 removed certain aspects that made Sly 2 so great, Thieves in Time reintroduced them, throwing in more clue bottles and treasures to find. New costumes, gadgets, and playable characters brought forth interesting puzzles and challenges to overcome. Sure, the game wasn't as well optimized as previous Sly games, but developer Sanzaru Games deserves recognition here, even if the game ended on a very open-ended note that has left the series unfinished. Killzone II. Despite having a very controversial marketing tactic, remember that fake game trailer? Killzone 2 is still regarded as the absolute best installment in the franchise. For a time, Killzone 2 was the reason to own a PlayStation 3, with its astounding visuals, tight controls, action-packed campaign, and exceptional multiplayer. Really, you would have been hard-pressed to find even one significantly awful thing about this game. It is such a fantastic game that it really hurts knowing we can't go back online and fight with our friends since the server shut down in 2018. Maybe someday we'll get a remaster for PlayStation 5? Who knows? Twisted Metal. With the explosion of online gaming, we were left to wonder what a new Twisted Metal would look like in this new space. The answer was team-based deathmatches and a new nuke mode. On top of that, we got an exciting new story mode that focused on Sweet Tooth, Dollface, and Mr. Grimm, each with their own unique cutscenes and epic boss battles. Special weapons with interchangeable abilities, more ways to destroy the competition, and the newly mechanized Sweet Tooth all made this a joyfully maddening way to spend an afternoon indoors. Ni no Kuni: Wrath of the White Witch.
Slow down, Mr. Drippy.
But Ding Dong Dell's just down the way.
There just hasn't been an RPG quite like Ni no Kuni: Wrath of the White Witch. As a young boy named Oliver, you journey across the land, finding, battling, and taming familiars. Yes, it is very easy to call it PlayStation's Pokemon, but it is so much more than that. Just an hour or two with it showed us a game that boasts an excellent story, breathtaking visuals, and superb animation done by the legendary Studio Ghibli. There was so much love and tons of care put into this world, and Ni no Kuni would receive enough success to warrant a sequel in 2018. Journey. The PS3 saw a handful of wonderful indie titles to help kickstart the indie scene on PlayStation. Flow, Sound Shapes, and Flower, to name a few. But of them all, Journey is the one we find ourselves coming back to years later. The worldless storytelling is mysteriously brilliant, the environments are gorgeous and imaginative, and every puzzle presents its own unique challenge despite having such simplistic mechanics. It is absolutely one of those games that everyone needs to play at least once, and completionists have a special reward waiting for them at the end. Demon's Souls. At the time, Demon's Souls was a game that not many folks knew what to do with. While Dark Souls would introduce many players to the genius behind From Software and director Hidetaka Miyazaki, Demon's Souls was the start of it all. The enemy and level design conjured up vibrant and dismal locations, while the deep combat mechanics made every fight feel like a challenge. Tough but fair, Demon's Souls birthed a whole new community in the gaming landscape, and to see it rejuvenated on PlayStation 5 is heartwarming. Plus, the extremely short load times makes the game even better than it was in 2009. Metal Gear Solid 4: Guns of the Patriots. You'd be hard-pressed to find a game below Solid in the Metal Gear franchise. Except Survive, we don't talk about that. Guns of the Patriots, on the other hand, was way above Solid. Once again, Snake had infiltrated our minds and brought with him a campaign loaded with bizarre characters and a deep story. And unlike many PS3 titles, the visuals hold up shockingly well today. We may still fawn over the Phantom Pain and Twin Snakes, but Guns of the Patriots offers the same level of quality as those. Resistance 3.
Those of us remaining did what we could to remind ourselves we were human.
When it comes to talking about Insomniac games, a certain Lombax and Warbot typically dominate the conversation, but one franchise that helped define the PS3 was Resistance, specifically Resistance 3. While Xbox users were fighting the Hive and the Covenant, we were blasting away Chimera in a fantastic single-player campaign and an equally fantastic multiplayer mode. It may not have been the Halo killer Sony had been looking for, but it was still a damn fine sci-fi shooter. Now, if we could only get a remaster of these games, or better yet, Resistance 4. Mod Nation Racers. If you've ever wanted to create your own Mario Kart tracks, karts, and drivers, well, Mod Nation Racers fulfilled that desire and more. With hundreds of customization options to choose from, you could make almost anything you wanted. And take it from the writer of this video, there were some spectacular creations that came from the community. Unfortunately, owners can no longer access online content as servers were shut down in October of 2018. Hey, at least you can still enjoy the excellent single-player campaign and utilize parts from the base game. Heavenly Sword.
We'll be trapped like rats in here.
Even rats can become tigers when trapped.
And tigers make great trophies when skinned.
Enough!
Before this, Ninja Theory had only shelled out one game, Kung Fu Chaos, on the original Xbox. So, what would a Ninja Theory game look like with a first-party budget? You get the epic Heavenly Sword. Our time with the alluring badass Nariko was filled with heart-stopping action, immensely satisfying combat, and visuals that fully utilize the power of the PlayStation 3. Of course, Ninja Theory would be bought by Microsoft long after Heavenly Sword's launch, but even today, folks are demanding a remaster or remake. Seriously, could you imagine seeing this game at 60 frames per second?
We fight together or we die alone. And that means all of us.
Uncharted 2 Among Thieves.
You give me 5 minutes in that tent, that's all it'll take.
Really? 5 minutes? Well, that's great. I won't even have to get my top off.
Chloe, I was thinking more like an explosion.
Honestly, it was a bit difficult choosing which Uncharted to put on here. Do we go with the one that started it all? How about the one with the iconic cargo plane set piece? No, it's hard to put anything above Uncharted 2 Among Thieves. Between the explosive fights in Nepal and the train chase in the Himalayas, the set pieces here were the best the series has ever seen. And the writing? Significantly better than its predecessor. Really, Among Thieves raised the bar that was already set fairly high by the first game. Infamous. Prior to joining Nathan Drake on another questionably murderous adventure, we had met the newest hero from Sucker Punch Productions, Cole McGrath from Infamous. Indeed, Infamous was a stellar open-world experience coming from PlayStation. Empire City is teeming with places to jump off and rail grind around, serving as a blueprint for how all open-world games should handle traversal. On top of that, no matter how many times we vaporized and electrocuted our enemies, every lightning power was a thrill to use. Imagine if this game ever got DualSense support. Little Big Planet 2. The first Little Big Planet was a pioneer in games focused on user-generated content. However, its sequel really blew things out of the water. You see, it wasn't just more stickers and gizmos to make our platforming levels bigger. No, Little Big Planet 2 allowed users to create more than just platforming levels. That's right, you could build racing games, fighters, shooters, and many, many more. With the offerings here, fans of Media Molecule could let their creativity blossom, and some creators went on to become full-time developers at various studios. Should we ever get a fourth LBP, we sincerely hope it takes cues from this one. Ratchet and Clank Future, A Crack in Time. It is widely regarded as the absolute best Ratchet & Clank game ever made, and rightfully so. By this point, Insomniac was going nuts with almost any crazy concept they could think of, including robot pirates. This time around, it was, well, time control. As Ratchet travels the galaxy trying to find his pal, Clank is learning his origins and how to fully unleash the power of the Chronoscepter. For roughly 10 hours, you get the same chaotic Ratchet & Clank action, as well as some of the most creative puzzles the franchise has seen. God of War 3. We waited 5 long years to see Kratos' story come to a conclusion, and when we finally got it in 2010, it was worth the wait. God of War 3 finally brought a close to Kratos' time in the Greek pantheon, loading us up on an adventure with colossal fights, brutal deaths, and an epic score to tie it all together. It was a big bloodied present for fans who had been following the Ghost of Sparta for so long, and to see his tale wrap up in such an emotional way brought a tear to our eye. Finally, our man could rest, until he became the dad of boy in 2018. The Last of Us.
I want Joel to watch over her.
Whoa, I don't think that's
Shit,
the
I'm not
best
gonna
idea.
be him.
Sure, some folks will roll their eyes with this pick, but one simply cannot deny how The Last of Us has changed the industry. A beautifully written story carried out by some of the most talented actors, a disturbingly gorgeous world housing creepy fungus monsters, a movie-like aesthetic, all this combined to form a game that would reshape the AAA market for better or for worse. Additionally, the Factions mode brought about a fantastic multiplayer package that has caused fans to beg for another. Developer Naughty Dog certainly proved its worth to the PlayStation brand with this title.
Run!
Go! Go! Move!
Check out these other great clips from MojoPlays, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos.